Spooky time with Steven.
And Noel.
Warning, this video may contain disturbing images and graphic violence. Viewer discretion is advised. Oh, and happy Friday the 13th.
Hello and welcome to Spooky Time with Steven.
And Noel.
I'm here today. Hi. Alright, today we wanted to talk about our favorite lesser known, like underrated horror movies. Like horror movies that not a lot of people talk about or have kind of become cult classics, so like it's a little niche market. And yeah, we've picked 3 each. And you want me to start?
Go ahead, buddy.
I guess so. Alright, so my number 1 pick.
Sorry.
My third pick, my number 3 pick, is The Changeling. It was independently made at first, but then it was outsourced to more publicly known production companies. It's about a composer who recently lost his wife and child in a tragic car accident. He moves to Washington. He's from New York, and he moves to Washington, and he moves into this building that's not been lived in for about, I think, like 11 years or something like that. And right away, he starts noticing like paranormal activity happening in there. He hears like thud noises at night. He hears, I remember at one point, it's been a long time since I've seen this movie. He sees like a ball, like one of the recurring things is the thud ends up being like this ball that bounces down the stairs. It's really creepy. I know what I'm saying doesn't sound creepy, but it's really creepy. And it turns out there was this kid who was like drowned by his father in that house, and that kid haunts the house. And I'm not going to give anything away, but you need to watch it because it turns into so much more than that. And it was just such a great movie. I remember it scaring me so much as a kid. All right, what's your number 3 pick?
So my number 3 is Dead Silence. A lot of people do know it. Some people don't. It was made in 2007. And I can't say his last name. It's Ryan Catwin. I can't say his last name, guys. But he is from the HBO show True Blood, which came out by like 2008, I want to say. And it follows him. His name is Jamie, and him and his fiance are, moving and stuff into their apartment, and she dies tragically. But before that, what happens is that a mysterious box came into his possession, which was a doll. And for some people that didn't know, or what he didn't know was that his past was catching up with him, that his hometown is cursed by this curse of Mary Shaw, and
Beware the stare of Mary Shaw.
Say it. Just say it.
Oh, God, okay.
Beware the stare of Mary Shaw. She has no children, only dolls. And if you see her in your dreams, be sure to never ever scream.
And what Jamie always said that this was a folk tale that no one ever believed it, because it was just something that the adults told the children, to get them.
Not the adults.
Not the adults. They never do that. But as he goes along, tries to uncover what really happened to his fiance, he starts to realize that it's becoming not just a folk tale, but it's actually real, and he starts to uncover the truth about his past and his connection to Mary Shaw. And guys, when I first saw it, it was creepy. I don't know about you, buddy, when you first saw it.
I already don't like dolls that much to begin with, so that movie was so great to me. And it was James Wan still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, and if you don't know who James Wan is, guys, he made Saw movies. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, that movie was great.
But it was good. That's my number 3 right now.
3, man, that's the number 1. That's a great movie.
It was. I should have made that number 1, but my other one is my number 1. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, obviously.
Obviously.
All right. My number 2 pick is going to be Lady in White, the 1988 cult classic.
Ooh.
So Lady in White, 1988, it's directed by Frank LaLoggia. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. It's a very Italian name. I am not Italian. And it stars a young actor at the time named Lucas Daniel Haas. Now, Lucas Daniel Haas, he's been in a few things since then. He was in Mars Attacks, Inception. But my favorite role of his was the patient in the My Chemical Romance video, Welcome to the Black Parade.
That's right.
He was. Look at his face. It's him. Imagine him
He's just
sickly.
missing the makeup.
I know. Sorry, I was going down a little rabbit hole and I was like, oh my God, that's him. Because I was like, is he still acting? And I'm like, oh, I've seen him in a few things actually. He just
When you
wasn't.
showed me his face, I go, he looks so familiar.
Yeah. He wasn't. He's just not the little boy he used to be when he was in the movie, because that's what he used to look like.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was 10.
Wow.
Wow.
Anyway, it's about a little boy who gets locked in his school's closet, like a coat closet, by his friends as a prank. And, you know, he's stuck in there, so he just falls asleep eventually because it's like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And when he wakes up, he sees a little girl, a ghost girl, dancing in there. And he witnesses her die. Like, she reenacts her death, basically. She reenacts her death by, you know, and he's watching her and he's like, no. And then just as the apparition goes away, a figure, a guy, a real life guy, not a ghost, comes into the closet and chokes him out and tries to kill him. And his dad luckily gets there in time, revives him, he's alive. But it sends him down this rabbit hole of who was that, who tried to kill me, who was that little girl, and like what happened. And he eventually real quick finds out actually that he was about to be the 12th victim in this string of child killings that happened the last 10 years. And the girl, the ghost girl he found, was the first victim. Her name was Melissa. Really cool. Well, I mean, not cool, but really cool movie, really good story. It's all about him trying to figure out like who the killer was, trying to get justice for her, because eventually throughout the movie she keeps haunting him and she keeps asking for his help, basically. And I didn't realize it because I hadn't watched this movie since I was a kid. It's set in 1962. It deals with a lot of like the black rights, like African Americans' rights, and they talk about segregation. They try to pin the murders on a black man because he's black. Yeah, it was really cool, and I didn't realize that they because like I said, I hadn't seen since I was a kid. I didn't realize they focused so much on that. They showed a lot of the protesting, like actual footage from the protests and stuff. It was really some deep, dark subjects, but I liked it a lot. That's my number 2.
So guys, my number 2 I picked is My Bloody Valentine, the original one, not the newer version with Jensen Ackles, but the original one came out in 1981, and you know, talk about what we were talking about earlier about some movies were shot in Canada.
Yeah.
Guys, just a little quick fact that during the 80s like slasher genre, that a lot of movies were actually shot in Canada. A lot of horror movies were.
They got a lot of good scenery.
They do.
There.
And this one has a lot of great scenes in this one. But it follows the story of a serial killer named Harry Warden, that he was a miner and was accidentally trapped inside of a mining tunnel. And when they found him weeks later, that he went crazy, and the people that he was stuck inside with, he ate them and was sent to a mental institution. And but a year later he escaped and started going on a killing spree on Valentine's Day, the day of, you know, the accident happened. And so ever since then, every year that the town of Valentine Bluffs has been plagued by the curse of Harry Warden.
He killed the 2 supervisors who had left their posts the year before. Then he cut out their hearts and stuffed them into heart-shaped candy boxes.
But it's, as the story goes on, it's just a lot of twists and turns. You're always guessing who's the killer, who is this, you know. And the day of Valentine's Day, there's a party, and then the local police department banned all parties because they don't want a repeat of what happened.
They said, "Screw this."
Yeah, exactly. They're like, we don't want a repeat of what's going to happen. You know, what happened years ago. But I just gotta say, guys, if you've ever seen My Bloody Valentine, you guys know how good of a movie it is. The newer one, yeah, I like it.
I didn't see the new one.
But I would really give it a chance. It's really, really good, and that's my number 2 because my mom showed me that movie, and thanks, Mom.
Oh, your mommy.
Mommy. But it was really good, and the ending was really creepy too, just because I'm like, ugh, you gave me cringe because like it was
chills.
that creepy. It is. But that's my number 2, guys.
Woo! All right. Before we reveal our number 1 picks, here are some honorable mentions.
Number 5, the 1988 cult classic Pumpkinhead. Number 4, Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive. 3, the 2006 video game horror film Stay Alive. Number 2, the nautical horror film Ghost Ship. And at number 1, the 1976 Richard Donner classic, The Omen.
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
Now, back to spooky time.
Okay, now for our number 1 picks. Alright, my number 1, oh my gosh, it's so good. It was technically a mini-series and it premiered in 2002. And it is the Stephen King amazing miniseries, Rose Red. I loved Rose Red. I watched it every night. There was a 3-night series. Every night it aired. Me, my grandma, and my aunt, we huddled around, had food, ready to watch it. It was so good. So it's about this house. Extremely haunted, like mega haunt. It's giving haunt. It's very haunted.
Extreme haunt.
Yeah, the most haunt. Anyway, it was like cursed from the get-go. Like, as they were building it, people died, people went crazy building it, and finally the house was built. And it was to this very wealthy wife and husband who, on their honeymoon, I think they were in Africa, she ends up getting like an STD from him because, you know, he's a scumbag. And she befriends a lady in Africa, and that lady nurses her back to health, and she loves her so much she invites, I think, her and her daughter, I can't remember, but she invites them to come live with her in America. And so they become her servants, they live there full time, they're besties. And over the years, the house just keeps claiming more and more people. And even her own daughter goes missing, like not even murder, she just goes missing. And the last person to watch her was that friend from Africa. So they tried pinning it on her because I think it was like the 1800s. So they're trying to pin it on her, saying she killed her, it had to be her. And anyway, a bunch of crazy crap happens. She's convinced that if she keeps building the house, much like the Winchester Mystery House, that she'll live forever. So she keeps adding on to the house till the day she dies, which, spoiler, she didn't live forever. And anyway, so over the years after most of the family died, most of everybody who's been in there died. Like in the 60s, 70s, it became like a tourist thing where they did tours, but that stopped in the 70s because a lady went missing. She just disappeared. And then after that, a bunch of paranormal people would come and do paranormal things, see what they can find. And that ended, I think, in the 70s as well. And so fast forward, it's 2001. And the owner of the property is the great-great-grandson of the lady, you know, who owned it. And he's been offered a bunch of money to tear it down and turn it into condominiums. And he goes, okay, well, before I do that, I'm going to let one more group of people come in and explore the place before it's shut down. And so this crazy freaking lady, who's a professor at a college, she decides she wants to bring a group of psychics into the place. Because, you know, why not? Let's stir up some demons. Psychics in there. And see if they can wake up the house, is what she's calling it. She wants to wake up the house and see what they can capture, this and that. And one of the main characters, who is the strongest psychic, is a little girl. She's a teenager. And you might know her from the series, the series of movies, Halloween Town, Kimberly J. Brown, who I actually follow on TikTok. She's great.
Me too.
I know she's great, right? Yeah, it's little young her. I think it's around the time she was doing Halloween Town. She's the main psychic, like not the main psychic, she's the most powerful, but she's a teenager, so she can't really control it too much. She's a teenager, but like she's got like the mind of a 5-year-old. She's a really young mind. So yeah. Anyway, a bunch of crazy crap happens. The effects were so good for 2001. Sometimes the ghosts were normal, sometimes they looked decomposed and creepy, and I loved it. The storyline was great. Every episode ended on a cliffhanger except for the last one, so you had to come back the next time to find out what happened. And it's actually one of the first movies that Stephen King wrote specifically as a movie, not as a book yet. So I think he ended up doing a book, or at least doing the screenplay afterwards, setting out as a book. But I don't know. It was so great. I told Steven here he needs to watch it. It was so good.
I'm gonna watch it tonight when I get home.
It's so
After
good.
we do this episode, I'm gonna do it.
22 years later, and it still holds up. And I love it so much. So that's mine, Rose Red.
So my number 1 pick is movie back in the 80s, 86, called Rawhead Rex. Now, this this when I first saw this, it was, obviously it's set in the 80s, and you guys know us, we love 80s horror films, because obviously right here, see, and it follows the story of a man. He's a historian from America. He goes all the way to the shores of Ireland and takes his family with him so he can, research his family lineage, because he wants to know where he came from. And upon him being there, it turns out this ancient evil is awakened, and it was trapped inside of like this big, like almost like a big totem pole. And what happens is that it's part man, part demon, and then part whatever else this thing is. And it's so weird because it goes on this killing spree, because it's it's a new area. It doesn't know where it's at, obviously, so it's going on this major killing spree. But what you find out later on is that this creature was around the time God was still around, even before man. And which was cool. So it's that old. There's a scene where you see different glass paintings in the church. One of them happens to be Rawhead Rex, is what they called him, Rawhead. And
I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's pretty much him holding onto this totem pole that he's actually being summoned back to where he came from, and which was cool because now that it just proves the fact that he's that old when God was still around. And when I first saw it, like I said, my mom showed it to me. Hi, Mom, again. It was cool because I didn't know, I'm losing the words, guys, I'm sorry, but if you guys ever seen it or if you guys heard of it, it's a really good movie. I kind of glad they never remade it again into like a newer version, but then again, I kind of wish they did. She's back. And I don't know, it's a lot of, blood and gore from what do you expect from an 80s horror movie? But I might just go watch it tonight after I watch Rose Red.
I was going to say, you gotta watch that. I might watch Rose Red again tonight because, it's a good movie.
And I think I let you borrow the movie.
I know I haven't.
Which you have not watched yet.
I'm sorry. I have kids. It's hard to watch new things.
Anyway. But yeah, that's my number one pick, guys.
So tell us in the comments what's some of your favorite underappreciated, underrated horror movies that no one really talks about. I'd love to have a conversation about it in the comments. That'd be fun. And I would love to see new recommendations. I mean, hey, you might even find one he hasn't seen.
There's probably a lot that I haven't
seen. I know there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot. Yeah. Me and my friends back in the day used to love watching B horror movies.
Seriously.
So I'm sure there's a whole bunch of great ones that are just not quite known. All right. Thank you for sitting here with us talking about horror. This has been
Spooky Time with Steve
and Noel.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
This has been Spooky Time with Steven. Happy hauntings.